You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Excited, as always, to have you join me today on our Weight Loss and Wellness Wednesday. We're going to be talking about a topic that I've literally been waiting months to share with you. I have so many podcast ideas in the queue. That's why I always think it's funny when people like, how do you come up with different topics for each day? Well, in my practice, I'm getting asked questions by the dozens every single day. And so I just use those as real world examples of, if one person has the question, I'm assuming there's 100,000 people out there, maybe even 1 million with the same exact question. And I'm sure there are. And so, what I want to do is share this knowledge with you, and whether you pass it on to your children or your parents or your spouse or friends or coworkers, that's what it's all about. But the truth is that we've been really misled with this whole breakfast concept that we've had over the years. And so what I wanted today is to really dispel those myths in the first place, and then share with you what a normal, literally a biologically normal, meaning for our body, breakfast would be. And that's going to enable you to better flush toxins from your body and flush fat from your body. And that's why that's the name of today's episode. And there's a lot of truth behind it, and I will share the science with you as well. But breakfast as we know it is a somewhat of a new development. Around the 1500s is what my research shows. Around the 1500s, workers began to become a little bit more industrialized. The work that they were doing was a little bit more challenging. And because of that, they would become exhausted if they waited until lunch, which, by the way, lunch used to be called dinner, which comes from the word, I believe, disner, which meant to break fast. And again, this is not my area of expertise of going back to Latin and all these different phrases, which I'm sure there's a lot of people laughing at me if that's not Latin, but that's okay. But what I'm saying is that's how things used to be. And I'm going to get back to, what hunter-gatherers ate and those types of things as well, based on what we have for anthropological-based evidence. So what happened was, and it makes total sense, if you're going to work the fields all day, if you're going to build on construction-based, industrial-based projects, which they were doing, whether it was in the Middle East or other areas as well in Europe, you needed fuel. That was the bottom line. So you were no longer just walking around doing daily chores. You were doing manual labor. And once you were doing manual labor, you couldn't subsist by just fasting the whole morning. I've talked about that many, many times, meaning if you're going to do a longer intermittent fast, if you're going to skip breakfast completely, please make sure that you are having a relaxed morning, because if you're not, you're going to potentially be dipping into fuel that your body doesn't necessarily have. Now, again, we can make many different arguments on this, but I'm just giving you some good science of why you'll be able to want to get some fuel into your body and still be able to tap into body fat at the same time. And we'll share with you that information in just a moment. But then, all right, so that's breakfast in general. And that was like porridge back then. It was almost like an oatmeal or a polenta, or if you look to the other civilizations in Central and South America, they might grind up things like quinoa but it was some type of grain and fruit, and very, very light. Okay, so it was light. That's what they used to have. And then I read some really interesting research here. Okay, so in the 1920s, I want to go through this with you. In the 1920s, this was a family. It was two brothers. Actually, it was the nephew of Sigmund Freud. So his name was Bernays. Bernays was approached by the Beech Nut Packing Company. I want to read this for you word by word. 1920s, Bernays was approached by the Beech Nut Packing Company, producers of everything from pork products to nostalgic beech nut bubblegum. Beech Nut wanted to increase consumer demand for bacon. Bernays turned to his agency's internal doctor and asked him whether a heavier breakfast might be more beneficial for the American public. Knowing which way his bread was buttered, the doctor confirmed Bernays' suspicion and wrote to 5,000 of his doctor's friends, asking them to confirm as well. The study of doctors, and study in quotations, air quotes here on my end, of doctors encouraging the American public to eat a heavier breakfast namely bacon and eggs, was published in major newspapers and magazines of the time to great success. Beech nuts profits rose sharply thanks to Bernays and his team of medical professionals. And I'll put that in air quotes again. So here's the deal. The so-called American breakfast, I want you to know this. This was always funny to me because I thought that was normal breakfast. It wasn't until I went overseas to Europe, and then, of course, with my studies in India and China and Sri Lanka and Europe, that I realized that, hey, everybody doesn't wake up to eggs and bacon and a heavy fatty breakfast. This is an American thing. And so much so, when I would go to order off the menu if I was out, it was actually called an American breakfast. And a lot of hotels or international hotels, even in the US, you'll see that. It says like breakfast, which might be like a croissant, or it might be some fruit or anything like that. And then it will say American breakfast, and it will say eggs and bacon and hash browns and whatever else with it. So this is a concept that unless you've really done some travel, you might not even know. The rest of the world doesn't eat like this. They don't wake up to these heavy, fatty foods. And there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that, and here's why. It would never have happened in the American culture had not some deceptive marketing taken place. Remember, magazines and newspapers, many of them, are really bought and paid for. They're private-based entities. They're not literally run by nonprofits or anything like that. They're for profit. And what we're looking at are doctors on the take, and this happens to this day, unfortunately. There's many studies of showing doctors that are trying to promote a certain result for a pharmaceutical company or what have you, whatever it might be. I'm not going to name any names right here today. But here we have the Beech Nut Packing Company saying we have excess pork. And what are we trying to do? Well, we need Americans to eat more pork. The same exact thing happened with fluoride that was left over, and the same exact thing happened with soy. So now we have soy oil being added to everything. Okay, we have like literally soy everything that was then promoted as a health food. Again, am I okay with a little organic sprouted non-GMO tofu once or twice a week? Yes, no big deal. Okay, I'm not talking about soy milk. I'm not talking about soy isolates. All right, I'm talking about the bean itself. But the other thing is this, is that you don't even know this, right? So if the media is bringing this to you in magazines and the media is showing this on not TV back then, but TV today, you take it as the truth. But it's not the truth. It's just the media, and you have to look at things with a form of suspicion. Now, in terms of breakfast, here's the big thing. It makes zero sense to have a heavy breakfast. Like, absolutely no sense. And here's why. I'm going to give you many different reasons. The first one is this, is that about 30% of all of your energy for the day goes to digestion. If you want more energy in the morning, if you don't want to be groggy in the morning, if you want to feel lighter, if you want to have more brain clarity, right? If your stomach wants to be flatter, you are not going to put a heavy, fatty breakfast in your morning, especially with heavy proteins. Why would you not do that? It's because greasy food, such as bacon and eggs, and heavy protein foods, such as bacon and eggs, take a long time to digest. Your stomach and your whole body and all the organs of your body are just waking up. You're just getting out of a deep sleep. Your body is literally just acclimating to the day. And you want to say, hey, here you go. Try to break down all of this. And then we wonder why we're so tired. We start to crash after a meal. It's a sign that our digestive system is a little sluggish. But in this case, in the morning, our digestive system is not supposed to be ramped up. We've known that through 6,000 years of Ayurvedic research and actual writings. Okay, what did Ayurveda say? Ayurveda said this, that lunchtime is your strongest point of digestion. All right, that was your largest meal. And we know that. It basically says, like, I don't honestly know the old saying, but it's like, eat like a pauper for breakfast, eat like an emperor at lunch and a king in the evening, something like that. So basically it just means smallest or lightest meal probably for breakfast, or just a light meal, I should say. I'm going to get into that. Heaviest or biggest meal is for lunch. And then for dinner, normal size meal, okay? And we'll talk about that as well. And again, the origin of supper comes from soup, so that should be a lighter meal for easy digestion as well. I'll talk about some intricacies of that. Really, today we're talking about breakfast. Okay, so here's the deal. The one reason, yes, so it takes a massive amount of energy to break down all of that protein. Do I have a problem with protein? Not at all. But protein and the heavy protein coming from animal-based products at breakfast, not a great idea. There's also going to be more just toxins coming from the proteins as well. That's normal protein metabolism, meaning like being able to degrade and biodegrade ammonia, nitrates, all the different things from these products. So you're not asking your body to do that first thing in the morning. It doesn't make any sense. Okay, here's the other thing. When you look at normal human physiology, what you're looking at is this. When you go to bed at night, this is actually not well known. Your body is working on digestion and rejuvenation. So you might say, oh yeah, well, of course, that's well and good. We're sleeping. We're repairing we're repairing the body and all the processes of the body. We're eliminating waste. Totally get it. Okay, well, here's what happens. As your cells are rejuvenating, they're literally pushing waste outside of the cell, and it's moving to the lymphatic system. Well, here's the other deal. Your lymphatic system is not working very well while you're lying down because your lymphatic system works on what's called a manual pump. For those people who don't know what the lymphatic system is, since that's obviously not a common knowledge or term thrown around, well, your lymphatic system essentially works on detoxification, so it takes all the waste of the body. It's 4 times the amount of fluid in your body, like your blood. It looks a lot like the blood in the body, meaning that it has its own vessels. It's connected to your lymph nodes, so it works on, of course, detoxification as well as your immune-based system. But it also helps with the removal of fats. So this is where it starts to get very interesting, because if your lymphatic system is taking all of these toxins over the course of the evening and as you're sleeping, and believe it or not, your body becomes a lot more acid at night. Why? Well, simply because the byproduct of waste is acids. When we run something like an organic acids test that we talk about often, what are we looking at? We're looking at acids. What does acid mean? It means waste. Really, like the health world gets so crazy over acid and alkaline. Here's the deal. Like acid is lower pH and acid is waste. That's all we have to talk about. The more waste in your body, the more toxic you are, the more acid you are. It's just, that's human physiology. Well, here's the thing. When you start to wake up in the morning, a lot of times the body can be a little bit more swollen. The eyes look a little bit more swollen. The body can sometimes be puffy. That's a really big sign that your lymphatic system is congested. It's why we recommend dry brushing before you get in the shower. But at the same time, here's what would happen. If you were to have that heavy fat breakfast, heavy protein breakfast, you're adding more congestion to the lymphatic system. So what is Ayurveda? What is traditional Chinese medicine? What is Taoism? What is all of the great, every single culture before our westernization took over? What do they recommend? Light breakfast. What else do they recommend? Predominantly water-based. What else do they recommend? Anything that's going to help flush and wake up that immune system, I should say digestive system, and lymphatic system. That is why one of the number one recommendations when you wake up is to have a glass of room temperature water, or a warm water, or maybe even a little hot water with some squeezed lemon or lime, okay? Everyone can do that unless you have histamine-based issues. Maybe a pinch of sea salt, all right? That is a great thing just to wake up the digestive system, all right? Flush the stomach of any mucus, any acids there. Let that move into the intestines and get that peristaltic movement going. What does that mean? Well, it means that we're going to get that little wave, that little motion going through the 26 feet of intestines that you have, 23 or so feet of small intestine, 21 to 23, and 5 to 6 feet of colon, large intestine. Well, that's going to help you to hopefully produce a bowel movement in the morning, which then allows you to remove that waste that your body has filtered overnight. Remember, your body is this beautiful, intricate system of knowing exactly what it needs to do if you give it the raw materials that it needs and that you don't work against it. That's really what we're talking about here. Okay, so here's the other thing. What do we need to do? Okay, we have that lemon water. We have that lime water. Or you can do a little bit of green juice, vegetable juice with a little lemon, a little ginger in there. That would work as well. I, myself personally, just put in a scoop of the daily fruit and vegetable blend. That's 22 organic fruits and vegetables. It's a powder. It's been juiced. Really simple to use. I squeeze a lime in there or lemon or both. I put a pinch of sea salt. I stir that right up and maybe sometimes a little bit of local wildflower honey or Manuka honey. Now, that allows me for just really waking up the digestive system. No food yet, just hydration. 8 to 10 ounces or so, just hydration, all right? Then I go to start my day. I'm just moving, right? I'm splashing a little water on my face. I'm getting rid of any of the swelling or any, sleepies in my eyes, anything like that. And then I'm brushing my teeth. I'm taking care of my oral health. I might be doing some oil pulling, all right? Getting rid of the bacteria in my mouth. It's a time for cleansing in the morning. Remember, purification in the morning. Your body just laid there like a slug in bed, removing all this waste from the cells. You need to get it out of your body. After that, before they get in the shower, I'm either doing a sesame oil self-massage or I'm doing some dry brushing. Either way, both of those things moves my lymphatic system. Then I'm taking a warm shower or a hot shower to get that blood flowing. I'm vasodilating. I'm moving everything. Now, the lymphatic system is moving as well, whether I'm using a washcloth in the shower or a loofah, one of those things, right? Very manly. That allows you to, again, move the lymphatic system as you're running it against your skin. That is now, again, moving the lymphatic system, cleansing the body, purifying it, getting that waste out, okay? After I get out of the shower, I'm doing my body weight movements. I've talked about this before. What is it doing? Again, it's slowly and gently moving my body. After that, I'm getting more hydration. What am I doing? I'm doing a smoothie. I'm doing 1 to 2 cups of some berries, something low glycemic to start my day. And then I'm adding in some spinach or some greens. What is that? Both of those things are 80 to 90% water, your fruits and veggies. Then I'm putting in a vegan, already pre-digested protein powder, our daily all-in-one nutrition, which is your vitamins, your minerals, all those things. Plus, again, it's a micronized pea and rice-based protein. It takes very little digestive strength. I'm blending that up with some water and maybe a little bit of coconut cream or something like that. That's it. That makes 30 plus ounces of water. So for me, I drank my 8 to 10 ounces in the morning of water. I'm drinking that smoothie now over an hour to 2 hours or so. It makes a huge smoothie, 2 mason jars full. That's how I bring it to work. And that now allows me to get in another 4 glasses or so of water. So before 10 a.m., I've already consumed 4 glasses of water. That includes my smoothie. And then my greens in the morning. That's 5 glasses of water. That's already more than half of the water that that's about half of the water I'm going to drink for the day before 10 a.m. And that's the most important time to get it. Why? Again, here's the reason. I don't drink water typically an hour or 2 before bed, or if before bed I'm having just some sips of water. That's about it. So now I've gone 2 hours or so before bed, and then another 8 hours while I'm in bed. That's 10 hours without any water before I have my first glass of water with my greens in the morning. That's almost half the day without hydration. My body is dehydrated. So when I started doing this, I realized I didn't need the coffee anymore because my body wasn't tired. It was completely dehydrated. And and again, when I started doing smoothie, I didn't need the coffee to help digest all this heavy protein. Because again, during my natural bodybuilding days, I was eating a ham steak, some eggs, or some bacon, some turkey sausages, some chicken sausages. And I was doing that to try to pack on the muscle and add more protein. I realized that is not very healthy for the human body. It's not natural. It started to happen it's less than 100 years ago. 100 years ago. This is not normal human evolution. I have no problem with you eating. Again, you can be vegan, you can be vegetarian, you can be paleo, you can be whatever you want, all right? Whatever you want for protein, that's fine. But the heavier protein meals should really happen at lunch and then some protein for dinner. Okay, why a lot of the times might I say protein, a heavier meal at dinner, maybe your animal protein at dinner? The reason is that we no longer take a break after lunch. We don't have a siesta. We don't lie down on our left side to help with digestion for a half hour to an hour. That doesn't happen. We get right back to work or manual labor or stress. So sometimes for a lot of people, they might not feel well with the heavier meal at lunch. That's a topic for a different day. Today is all about breakfast. So to sum this up, how do you flush fat from your body? How do you flush toxins from your body? What you need to do is superhydrate, okay? Superhydrate, and your body will soak this up. You will literally wash away the inflammation, wash away the swelling. It's very close to maintaining it's not a fast, right? But it's a liquid fast. And my biggest thing, one of the biggest ways that I am able to help people get well is this whole notion of liquid before lunch. I've never heard anyone say it before. I'm not saying I'm the first person to come up with that. For sure, in 2000, whenever I started this in 2000, let's say like 17, not 2017, 2007 or so, I'm sure it's happened many, many times before, right? Because people were doing fruit-only breakfasts, right? Or they were doing juice-only breakfast, and there's a lot of great old-school naturopaths. What I'm trying to do is just hopefully share their research, share theirs as well, saying that you can make a smoothie now. You can use it. You can do a blended drink if you want to. Again, it's your choice. But liquid before lunch. A lot of other people, myself as well, I like to do a smoothie, and then I sometimes will do an oatmeal with it. And that keeps me satiated until lunch as well. But again, oatmeal is essentially liquid. It's gruel. It takes nothing to digest. What I don't want you to do is have to really turn on your digestive system until lunchtime, all right? Now, there's a lot of people who like to fast, just completely not eat anything until lunch. I understand that. But a good compromise, meaning like you'll still keep that same energy and clarity of thinking, maybe even more so by doing a smoothie for breakfast or just maybe a cup of berries. But again, I find people do better with a little protein, a little bit of fat, and then those berries, the fruit, the greens in there. And the reason is it just helps with for people that are a little bit more sensitive to fruit, to getting a little bit of glucose in there, it blunts that effect a little bit. But here's the deal. I'm not here to tell you exactly what to eat for breakfast today. I'm sharing what I do and what I do in my practice. But the other big thing is this. I'm telling you essentially what not to do. The heavy breakfast. And so let me take a step back. Let's say you love your eggs let's say you love your chicken sausage, whatever it might be. Okay, why not do that for lunch, or why not do that for dinner? You can easily do breakfast for dinner, or what we'll call right now American breakfast for dinner, right? Because no other country is really doing that, or they've taken on this westernized style, but it happened in America, in the US, in the 1920s, less than 100 years ago is when this all started. Before that, it was essentially the liquid before lunch that I'm talking about. It was the gruel, it was the mashed up grains mixed with water, or it was also hunting and gathering. And what you weren't doing was killing an animal, bringing it back for breakfast and eating it. That was not happening. That would have happened later in the day if you were lucky enough to catch something. So what were you eating? Well, you were eating anything that you were able to gather maybe the day before, which would have been some berries or something that you could forage for, or some veggies or some greens or whatever it might be. And that's what you would eat the next morning, if anything. Or you'd be out walking and you'd be hunting and gathering. And as you are gathering, you'd be able to eat some of those berries or things like that. Now, again, we don't have to go back to that. We have the luxury of being able to have things like frozen organic blueberries already on hand. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. That's totally fine. And our ancestors probably would have literally obviously killed to be able to have access to this type of food at their disposal. So for me, it's immense gratitude that we're fortunate enough right now to be able to have these things. And the truth is that I've been in a lot of countries, I would say namely India and also Sri Lanka, but namely India, many of the places that we're at, where you're very fortunate to even get one meal per day. And that's the truth. Some of the poverty that I saw really struck me, and I will never forget it. It's hopefully something I will be able to do in the future to give back to what I hope to be a greater degree, meaning that I would love to be able to somehow help a community of people to be a lot more self-sufficient. And I think that's really what it's about, because if you saw a lot of what I saw in person, it was no human should ever live like that. That's the truth. So we should all be grateful, of course, for what we do have, and just understand that eating meat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner is a very unnatural human thing. At most, we would have had it once per day, and it would have been shared amongst an entire family or tribe. Meat would have been a decorative piece to the meal, unless someone was lucky enough to be able to get a larger animal for that day. But for the most part, you're living the sea, you're getting shellfish, you're getting things like that. You might be eating grubs and worms and beetles and the things that nobody ever wants to talk about, because the truth is that before, and humans have been around a long time, before human evolution, before we had weapons or anything like that, we had our two hands, okay? And with our two hands, I'm telling you right now, we only have two legs. You're not catching anything on four legs. Good luck with that. That's going to be real challenging, right? Every once in a while, you might get a rabbit or you might get something small, but you are not taking down a steer. You are not taking down an elk. You are not taking down deer. They would charge you, even a pig, even a boar, and you would be taken out. That's the truth. You would not be able to kill any of these animals with your teeth or your fingers or any of those things. So I just want us to start to also think about what human capability also has. And I'm not saying, again, I'm actually not anti-meat and I'm not anti-anything. What I am is anti-human evolution, anti-human physiology, and anti-human biology. And I just know that at no point in human history before current times was a human waking up to bacon and eggs for breakfast, then sitting down for a grass-fed burger at lunch, and then also for dinner, then having some wild-caught salmon. That is absolutely not the way that humans were meant to eat. And if you're following a paleo diet, then totally fine. And I'm not against that at all. Just think about at least not having animal-based protein at breakfast. I do believe that your health will increase immensely. And I also want you to just think about the principles that I spoke about as well. Not a heavy breakfast to allow then for your body to now to mobilize and eliminate all the waste that it naturally excretes at night, all the acids that have been pushed out of your body and your cells from normal metabolic processes. You need plenty of hydration in the morning, ideally at least some vegetable juice or some fruit or a smoothie or some greens drink, a lot of hydration, lemon water, any of those things to get you going. That is what I call the fat and toxin flushing breakfast. I really do hope that this was helpful. If I missed anything, if I didn't explain it well enough, if I was off base, anything at all, let me know. Just go to Instagram, go to @StephenCabral, comment on this particular post, go to cabralsupportgroup.com. Let me know what you thought. I would love to hear your thoughts. And as always, if you know someone eating this type of toxic-based breakfast right now, share this show with them. It can only help. They don't have to change overnight. Just start to get that information out to people. Thank you so much for tuning into the Cabral Concept. I really do appreciate each and every one of your listens. Take care.
Before you go, I wanted to share a personal story with you. The real reason I began to get well finally is because I figured out what was wrong with me. And that might seem pretty obvious, but I went from doctor to doctor for over 2 years before discovering at-home functional medicine lab testing. These are the labs that enabled me to finally figure out what was wrong with my hormones, blood sugar, electrolytes, and gut health. And once I knew what was wrong, I could then follow a proven plan in order to rebalance my body from the inside out. This is why I believe so strongly in functional medicine lab testing and why I've made it my mission to share these labs with the world. Now at equa.life, you can order an at-home lab test or lab bundle for you and your family and be able to complete it within the week. Plus, the EquaLife difference is that you're not left to try to read and figure out these labs on your own. We explain what your lab numbers mean, what they mean in the much bigger picture, and then how to go about rebalancing your body in order to heal. To see our full selection of lab tests or to set up a free lab selection call to find out what labs may be best for you, simply head on over to equa.life/labs. And do remember, we ship these all over the world. To find out more and to set up your free lab selection call, simply head on over to equa.life/labs. That's EQUI.LIFE/labs.